Today we have the second session with Nerdio. Today we are going to have the Windows Virtual Desktop Fundamentals for MSPs. We have Joseph Landes, Chief Revenue Officer from Nerdio. Thank you, Joseph, for your time and commitment with Intcomex. I am Marlene Novo, and I'm in charge of the development of new vendors at Intcomex Cloud. So welcome to this session, and I hope you can learn a lot from Nerdio today.
Well, thank you very much, Marlene, and thank you to all of Intcomex for hosting me today. My name is Joseph Landes, and as Marlene said, I lead sales and marketing at Nerdio. I apologize, my Spanish is very poor, so I'm going to deliver this session today in English. And today, this is the second session of 3 that we are partnering with Intcomex on. Today's session is going to be Windows Virtual Desktop, and this is not going to be a session that is very deeply technical. It's really meant more of an idea to give you really what Windows Virtual Desktop is all about and why it is so important to the MSP space. So let's jump right in. The first thing I always like to share about Windows Virtual Desktop is what is it? If you were to ask someone, what is WVD, Windows Virtual Desktop, what is it? So the definition that I have created is as follows. It's a set of technology investments from Microsoft that allow any individual to stream his or her Windows 10 desktop from any device in any location. And this, of course, is a great value proposition for so many MSPs and their customers, because as we are living through this very difficult pandemic, being able to access your personal Windows 10 environment on any device you have and being able to work in a remote way is certainly a much better way of doing things in sort of a situation where you don't have access to be able to go into the office and be able to access your PC, your desktop the way you can. So this is a great value proposition for Microsoft. Now, more specifically, what is Windows Virtual Desktop? Well, it's actually a set of technologies and one licensing improvement that Microsoft has made to allow you to deploy virtual desktops in Microsoft Azure. We are going to go through each of these 4 things in greater detail, but briefly, it is an investment Microsoft made in Windows 10. It is an easier way to handle user profiles. It is the actual Microsoft Windows Virtual Desktop control plane, as it's called, and it's a simplified way of licensing the deployment of virtual desktops for your customers. And most MSPs like you on the call today, very much enjoy this. Because again, as an MSP, we know so many MSPs are looking to move to the cloud and looking to really get away from continuing to purchase on-premises hardware and reset their practice, transform their practice to the cloud. And Windows Virtual Desktop presents an amazing use case to be able to do that, to be able to say to your customer, we are not going to be running on premises anymore. We're not going to run your virtual desktops on premises. They're going to run streaming from the Microsoft Azure cloud. And you, the customer, will be able to work from anywhere. And we, the MSP, will be able to support you from anywhere. So we will both have increased operational efficiency, both you, the MSP, as well as the customer that you are serving. Now, to understand, really why Windows Virtual Desktop is such a big thing in the MSP ecosystem, you have to go back to what did we have before, prior to Windows Virtual Desktop. And I think, most people here on the call know that before Windows Virtual Desktop, if you wanted to deploy your customer using virtual desktops, you had to use a technology from Microsoft called Remote Desktop Services, otherwise known as RDS. This is a technology that first came in the year 2000 with Windows Server 2000. And it's been around, therefore, for 20 years. It's still around today. Even with Windows Virtual Desktop, you could still use RDS as a different way to deploy your customers into virtual desktops. But over the past year that WVD has been out from Microsoft, we've seen about 90%, 93% actually of MSPs that we work with use WVD and not RDS because it's simply a much better solution. Now, what is RDS all about, and why are people so excited about WVD? Well, if you use RDS, you have some limitations. You have some areas that are just not as good as WVD. So for example, in remote desktop services, in RDS, the underlying operating system that you use for RDS is Windows Server. It's not Windows Client, it's Windows Server. But when you use Windows Server in RDS, it comes with what Microsoft calls a desktop skin experience. What does that mean? It means that to the end user, the operating system looks like Windows Client. It looks like Windows 10, let's say. But underneath, it's really Windows Server. Why is that a problem sometimes? Because it creates an issue of application incompatibility. A lot of people assume incorrectly that if their application works on Windows Client, it will by default work on Windows Server. That is not the case because that's not the underlying operating system. So lots of times people use RDS, and unfortunately, the application doesn't work. The second challenge that people have, that MSPs have with RDS, are user profiles. The ability for the operating system to recognize the profile that comes with the user. And in the RDS world, there are a lot of challenges with that, a lot of issues around, taking one profile and moving it from one virtual machine to the other. There are issues around OneDrive support, Outlook OST files, many, many things. There are also some security issues. In the RDS world, you have to publish the RDP to the 3389 port on the web. So that is inherently somewhat insecure. It's not really a best practice, and there's been a lot written over the past 20 years about sort of how you could get around this issue of the security with RDS. And finally, if you look at the licensing, as an MSP, if you want to license RDS and you go to Intcomex and you talk to them about it, there's a lot of different pieces that you need to license properly. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. There have definitely been MSPs who've been able to leverage other companies who have created, technologies that sit on top of RDS to make it easier. Citrix and VMware are the two most prominent. And those are fine solutions, but they tend to be much more complex and they tend to be much more expensive. So, most MSPs would very much like to use a native solution, native Windows tools to be able to bring their customer into a virtual desktop scenario. And that is really why WVD has become so popular over the past year. So let's talk now about Windows Virtual Desktop and the 4 investments that Microsoft has made to bring WVD forward. And the first, is multi-session Windows 10. Let's talk about that. So first of all, when you use Windows Virtual Desktop, the underlying operating system is now Windows 10. It's not Windows Server, it's Windows 10. So you have full application compatibility. Any application that works on Windows 10 will work with Windows Virtual Desktop. The second advancement with Windows 10 that Microsoft made is they've created Windows 10 as a multi-session operating system. What do we mean by multi-session? Well, when you use Windows Virtual Desktop, there are 2 different ways that you can use Windows Virtual Desktop and to deploy a virtual desktop. You can either deploy what is called a personal desktop or a pooled desktop. What is a personal desktop? Well, a personal desktop is a one-to-one assignment of a user to a virtual machine resource, right? So each user gets their own WVD host, their own virtual machine resource. Now, that is a perfectly fine way of doing it, but it's also the most expensive way of deploying virtual desktops because you have to pay for a unique virtual machine for each user. The way that most MSPs and quite frankly most companies deploy WVD is what's called pooled desktops, where multiple users fit onto one Windows virtual desktop host. They share virtual machine resources. That's what we call multi-session. So, you know, Windows 10 needs to support multiple users using one virtual machine resource, and that is what Microsoft has done with Windows 10. And MSPs are very excited about it. Why? Because if you have multiple users using one virtual machine resource, you save money. It lowers the cost for your SMB customers. So that is another very big advancement. And then finally, the third advancement that Microsoft has made is Microsoft has put a lot of work into making sure that their best applications, and specifically Microsoft 365, work very well with Windows Virtual Desktop. It would probably surprise most of you to know that the presentation that we're doing today from my device is running over Windows Virtual Desktop. And I don't believe anyone here on this call is seeing any video latency, any audio latency. I think I'm coming in very clear. If you, if you see my picture here, you could see that I'm speaking and there's no delay. Everything is going well. So, you know, I think that Microsoft has done a lot of great work to make sure that their applications work in a better together way with Windows Virtual Desktop. Now, the other exciting thing about Windows Virtual Desktop is that you can use it on any device anywhere. So I put a slide together here with a number of different devices. You know, you could run Windows Virtual Desktop on a Raspberry Pi device. You could run it on a 60-inch Surface Studio, and everything in between. You could run it on an iPad, on a MacBook, on a Chromebook, on an Android device, on a Windows device. And that gives you and your customer amazing flexibility when it comes to running Windows Virtual Desktop. Let me give you an example of one customer that we worked with and their MSP who deployed Windows Virtual Desktop this past April when the COVID pandemic was hitting the United States very hard. We had an MSP who called us and said, I have a small business customer and they run a call center. They have a call center. And this call center has 50 employees. And unfortunately, one of the employees got sick with COVID. So they had to send him home and they had to close the entire call center. Now, each call center employee, when they were at work, had their own desk with their own desktop PC and monitor. And it was not practical to send each of these employees home carrying their desktop PC home. So what did the MSP do? They called Nerdio, and within a few hours, they had deployed all 50 customers into Windows Virtual Desktop. So when the employees got home, they could take any device they had at home. It could be an old laptop they had. It could be a desktop PC. It could be an iPad. They were sent in email a link. They clicked on the link and their desktop that they were used to using in their call center showed up, and it was just like they were working in their call center, but they were working from home. So that is really a very powerful thing and a very powerful use case when you think about Windows Virtual Desktop, because again, it allows you to really run Windows Virtual Desktop from any device and any device and anywhere. Let's go to the second topic. The second topic and the second area that Microsoft invested in is profile containers, user profiles. So Microsoft bought a company a few years ago called FS Logix. FS Logix was a startup. and they had some amazing technology around managing user profiles. User profiles, as we talked about, is a very hard thing for MSPs, for customers to manage with RDS. But in the WVD world, Microsoft bought this technology and they natively integrated it into WVD. How does it work? So in the WVD world, you could see this graphic that I drew. This is the cloud, the Azure cloud, and the user profile is stored on the file server in Microsoft Azure. So when the user logs into the operating system, into their Windows 10 operating system, the user profile leaves the file server and is plugged into the operating system during the login process. So now the user see all of their profile data together with the operating system. If someone could just go on mute so we don't hear your dog, that would be great. Thank you. And then once the user logs out of the operating system and they sign out, the user profile goes back to the file server in Microsoft Azure. Why is this exciting? Because now you, the MSP, you don't have to spend any time or effort thinking about user profiles. You don't have to figure out how you're going to handle them. You don't have to figure out the technology. It is all built in natively into Windows Virtual Desktop. The third area that Microsoft has invested in with WVD is what's called the control plane, how Windows Virtual Desktop is delivered as a service. Now, to understand why this is so powerful, we have to go back again to the RDS world. How does it work when you want to deploy a virtual desktop in RDS? Well, in the RDS world, you have a number of different roles to run RDS. You have what's called the connection broker, the license server, the gateway, and the RD web. Each one of these roles needs to run on an individual virtual machine that you, the MSP, need to manage and you need to pay for, right? So if you want to deploy a customer in RDS, you have to account for these 4 RDS roles in your costs and the virtual machines associated with them. How does it work in the WVD world? Well, in the WVD world, it's much, much easier. With Windows Virtual Desktop, Microsoft runs and manages a service in the Azure cloud. It's a Microsoft managed service. And these different roles that you have are now services that run within the control plane. So you as the MSP, you don't need to figure out, how am I going to find a virtual machine to put the broker on? How am I going to find a virtual machine to put the gateway on? Everything that you want to do to run Windows Virtual Desktop is managed by Microsoft. So you don't have to manage it and you don't have to pay for the cost of those virtual machines. It's much, much simpler. What do you have to do as an MSP? You just have to decide where you are going to run the Windows Virtual Desktop service from. As you know, Microsoft has 62 Azure regions. These are the buildings, if you will, that Microsoft runs Microsoft Azure from. So you as an MSP would simply choose a data center that is closest to where your customer is, where your customer is going to consume the service. And that's where you will run Windows Virtual Desktop. So you don't have to worry about, standing up the service. It's a service that's running within Microsoft Azure as well already. So it's much, much easier and much lower cost for you than the old RDS world. Finally, Microsoft has made a very big shift, a very big pivot in the licensing of Windows Virtual Desktop. So again, let's look at RDS. In the RDS world, we talked about needing different virtual machines, each one to run an RDS role. And when you do that, you need to license the Windows Server operating system for those virtual machines. In addition, you need each user needs a Windows user CAL and an RDS user CAL. So you have to license those client access licenses. And you also need to license something called shared computer activation from Microsoft 365. So if you want to deploy your customer in RDS, when you call Intcomex and you do the licensing with your salesperson, it's a very complicated set of things that you need. How does it work with Windows Virtual Desktop? Well, with Windows Virtual Desktop, you need one thing. You need to license, or you should license, Microsoft 365 Business Premium. Why is that? Why specifically M365 Business Premium? Because when you license that product, and I know that everybody here is probably delivering M365 to their customers, when you license Microsoft 365 Business Premium, it comes with the entitlement, with the permission, with the right for you to run Windows Virtual Desktop in Microsoft Azure. Now, you might be asking, well, what if I've already licensed Business Basic or Business Standard? By the way, remember, Microsoft renamed Office 365 to Microsoft 365. So I put the old names and the new names here. So you're asking, what if I already licensed Business Basic or Business Standard? Can I still run Windows Virtual Desktop? The answer is yes, but you need to also license Windows 10 Enterprise to give you the entitlement for Windows Virtual Desktop. So most MSPs find it to be more cost effective to license M365 Business Premium because you get everything you need in that one product from Microsoft. So when you compare licensing this one product, M365 Business Premium, and having everything you need to be able to run Windows Virtual Desktop, or licensing 4 or 5 different things with RDS, it's a very easy solution. That's why we see so many MSPs aggressively moving to WVD. I'd like to shift the discussion now and talk to you about how Nerdio can help you with Windows Virtual Desktop. So with Windows Virtual Desktop, we've seen that a lot of MSPs have tried to go to the native Azure portal, and they've had a lot of challenges with that. Microsoft doesn't make it very, very easy to do. So we have created a product called Nerdio for Azure. Our mission at Nerdio is to empower you to build a successful cloud practice in Microsoft Azure and with Windows Virtual Desktop. And our product, Nerdio for Azure, where we have a very proud partnership with Intcomex. Intcomex sells this product, allows you to do 4 different things very, very well and very easily with Microsoft Azure and Windows Virtual Desktop. Let me take you through each of these 4 things. So the first is deployment. When you want to deploy your customer into Windows Virtual Desktop, we make it easy for you to do, and it will take you about 2 to 3 hours to fully deploy your customer in Windows Virtual Desktop. Now, what does that mean? What is it, that we are deploying for you? Well, here's how it works. You would call up your salesperson at Intcomex. You would get your Azure and Microsoft 365 subscriptions, and you would connect them to our Nerdio for Azure tool that you could see on the screen here. And once you do that, in 2 to 3 hours, your entire customer environment will automatically be built for you. The domain controller, Active Directory. We build out the networking, the LAN, the DMZ, the storage and the backup, the file application and database servers. We build you the Microsoft 365 environment. We stand up the actual virtual desktops. We provision the virtual desktops for you. So really everything that you would have to do by hand, everything you would have to do yourself and typically would take you maybe 2 weeks to do, we do in 2 to 3 hours. So it is much faster and it is much more accurate. The second area of investment that we've made is we really help you understand the pricing, the cost for you to go to Intcomex and purchase Microsoft Azure. How do we do that? Well, we've created technology called the Nerdio Cost Estimator. That's part of our product. With the Cost Estimator, you answer some questions about the customer environment for WVD. And once you've answered those questions, we provide you with the following output. We show you the per user per month cost to you to purchase Azure, Microsoft 365, and Nerdio from Intcomex. So you could see here in this example, the MSP has said they want to deploy 30 desktops. So we calculate the cost to you, which is $42 a user a month. We also, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, we architect for you the virtual machines you need. We show you which virtual machines, what virtual machine family, how many cores you need, how much memory, and what type of memory. We show you what OS disk size you need and the data disk size. So imagine now you are fully in control. You call up Intcomex, you know exactly what you need, you know exactly what it's going to cost. And what do you do with this $42 a user a month? Well, don't show it to your customer because that's your cost. You take that, you put your managed services on top of it, you put your margin on top of it, and you go to your customer and you offer them Windows Virtual Desktop at a cost that makes sense for you and for them. That is the second investment we've made. The third investment we've made in Nerdio for Azure is the management of the WVD environment. Once you've deployed your customer into WVD, then, as you know, you have work to do because your customer is going to call you. They're going to call your help desk and they're going to ask you questions when they have questions. You know, hey, I lost my password. I think I need a new password. I think I need to be added to a new Active Directory group. Can you increase the storage on my file server? There's literally hundreds of questions that are being asked. So we've created a portal, the Nerdio admin portal, that allows you to manage your customers in Microsoft Azure, and anything you want to do in Azure, any task you want to do on behalf of your customer, you can do in 3 clicks or less. So we've simplified the management of the Azure environment for you. And that really will take a lot of burden off of your help desk, and you will save a lot of money because of this help desk automation. The fourth investment that we've made in Nerdio for Azure is what we call optimization. We have built into our product auto-scaling technology. What is the concept of auto-scaling? Well, let's say you as an MSP, you have a client, you have a customer that is a doctor's office. And every night at 8:00 p.m., all of the doctors, nurses, and staff, they all leave. And at 8:00 in the morning, they come back to the office. Wouldn't it be great to tell Microsoft Azure when to turn off, when to turn on, when to expand the resources, the Azure resources, when to reduce the Azure resources? So, you know, this is a hard thing to do if you're an MSP. It's very hard to do in the native Azure portal, but when you're using Nerdio, it's very easy to do. You could set the boundaries, the permission. You could set the rules around when Microsoft Azure should turn off and on, when it should expand and shrink. And what does that do for you as an MSP? It saves you money because when Microsoft Azure is not running, you don't have to pay for the consumption of the Azure resources. So this is a very, very big investment. Most MSPs who use Nerdio for Azure and follow our guidance around auto-scaling save anywhere from 60 to 80% off of the list price of Microsoft Azure. So a very big investment. A lot of MSPs, they ask us, you know, where do you fit in, Nerdio, to me, the MSP? What's your role? What's my role? Well, I like to show this wheel because I think it is very instructive. So the customer, your customer, is in the center of the wheel. They have their desktops, they have their backup in DR, their Microsoft 365. You, the MSP, you are surrounding the customer with value. You are, you know, helping the customer with support, with monitoring, with strategy, with migration. What is the role that we play at Nerdio? We are the management layer in between you and the customer. We help you, the MSP, be successful. You know, every MSP on this call today probably has an RMM tool you use, a PSA tool, security tools, backup tools. Now you have an Azure tool, an Azure automation tool to help build and run your Azure practice. We are a fully white label solution. It's a tool that's meant to be used by you, the MSP. We have two products that we sell through IntcomeX. I'll talk about the one on the right because it's our WVD product. It's Nerdio for Azure Enterprise. When you use Nerdio for Azure Enterprise, you get all of the tools I talked about, the pricing, the deployment, the optimization, the management, and you can deploy virtual desktops either with Windows Virtual Desktop or with RDS. And your cost from IntcomeX, well, our MSRP is $12 a desktop a month. I would encourage you to speak to IntcomeX to find out the precise cost in the different currencies that they support. But we charge $12 a desktop user a month. So when you think about having to go hire someone and bringing them into your company who knows how to do all of these things in Azure versus using the Nerdio automation platform to do it, we think it's a very easy choice. We have built a tremendous amount of value on top of the core Azure service, the core Windows Virtual Desktop service, and we build everything natively. We build everything on top of native Microsoft Azure. So you would use the core service and you would use our SaaS application to really make your life significantly easier, make the deployment easier, make the pricing easier, the management, the auto scaling, the management of desktop images, many, many, many things. We believe that in the end, Microsoft has created an amazing new technology that has been a very long time coming. You know, it's 20 years that RDS was released, since 20 years ago. And now you have the ability to take all of your RDS customers, bring them into Windows Virtual Desktop and really save a lot of money and make your life a lot easier, in addition to bringing new customers into the virtual desktop world. A lot of MSPs ask me, Joseph, you know, what should be my next step? What do you think I should do next? Well, you know, I will tell you what I believe is the most obvious thing is if you have a customer who has an on-premises server and that server is, you know, is dying for whatever reason, you know, get rid of that server. Just get rid of it. There's no reason to use it anymore. Move that customer to the cloud. You know, you have to win somewhere before you win everywhere. It's very hard to imagine a world in the coming years where people are going to keep buying servers and installing them at their customer site in a closet somewhere. It's not efficient. It's not the best way to do it. It's certainly a more expensive way of doing it. And the world has evolved to the cloud. And I think now it's time for every MSP to find their first customer that's ready to move to the cloud and do it. And I think the partnership with IntcomeX and Nerdio really allows you to do that. We're definitely here to help you. We partner very closely with IntcomeX. If you go to our website, getnerdio.com, you're going to see the Nerdio Academy. The Nerdio Academy has more than 700 articles and videos to teach you how to build a cloud practice in Microsoft Azure. We have a free trial of the product that can be accessed through IntcomeX or our website. We have a free version of our cost estimator. If you'd like to price out what it would cost to bring a customer to Azure, you could do that. And we have free internal use licenses. If you want to bring your own practice to the cloud with WVD, with Microsoft Azure, you can use Nerdio to do that, and we will give you free Nerdio licenses to do it. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today, this session on Windows Virtual Desktop. I hope you found it to be useful and instructive. I hope you know and you realize that Windows Virtual Desktop is a great technology from Microsoft that certainly is enhanced by using Nerdio. I have put my email address here on this slide. If you have any questions that I can answer outside of this call, I'm very happy to do it. I'm also going to answer questions now. But you know, we know that every MSP has questions. They have their own unique clients that they want to speak about. Please send me an email. We will jump on a call with you. We will walk you through Nerdio. We will help you price out an environment for your clients. Anything you need help with, we will do. So with that, again, a big thanks to IntcomeX for hosting me. today, and I'd like to open it up for questions. I think the first question I see in the chat here is from Jose. If you have one of the licenses, Business Basic or Business Standard, can it be upgraded to Premium and take care of Windows Virtual Desktop? Yes, you should talk to Intcomex, Jose, on how to take your existing license and upgrade it to Business Premium. Any other questions from anyone in the audience? Everything was very clear. It made sense. I'm sorry again, it was in English, but yeah, so.
Yes, thank you, Joseph. I am also going to put my email address in the chat. So in case you are not a Nerdio partner yet, just send me an email and I will send you the form so you can complete it and we can register you under any Intcomex account with Nerdio and you can start using the internal user license account to do a demo so you can try everything that Joseph just explained today.
Yeah, it looks like thank you so much. It looks like we have another question. Is there any Azure basic training where we could start? I always recommend people, if they want to be trained on Microsoft Azure, to go to Microsoft's website and to start thinking about some of the certifications for Microsoft Azure. The first one you want to look at is the Azure 900 Fundamentals class. I think that is a great one, but I'm sure that Marlene and Intcomex could probably point you to other Azure training that they have and tell you where you could get started. Great. Other questions you have? All right. Well, please, feel free to send me an email. I'd love to learn about you and your MSP practice. I'd love to see how we at Nerdio can help you. So please feel free to reach out to me. Again, a very big thank you to Intcomex. We have another class coming on Friday where we will show you how to price an Azure environment and how to use the Nerdio cost estimator to do that and to set yourselves up for a world where you're going to make a lot of money with Microsoft Azure. So again, thank you, Intcomex, for the session today. And thank you, everyone, for joining. We look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.